I cannot help but comment on that spectacular first reading. I couldn't do that if I tried. That is the prophecy of Jeremiah, and if you are a reader of Jeremiah, you will note that it is a grim, grim book. In the prophecy of Jeremiah, the beautiful proclamation of God's justice, God's future for God's people, is what the promise of the Christ child would have meant at the time. That restoration was their dream. But maybe ironically or movingly, in some way, a tribute to the human condition, we have Christmas and a season of Christmas that immediately has a shadow of death over it. The days after Christmas are filled with very grim readings, and we continue in them today. What we just heard in the gospel is that 3 leaders of some kind, wise elders, priests maybe, from Persia, from the Persian Empire, have crossed borders to arrive in the palace of the King of the Jews, Herod, in Jerusalem, to say that we have seen by the stars that your heir has arrived, and we are here to pay him homage. Shall we pause and let that sink in for a minute? Foreigners from the remnants of the greatest empire ever known to the region, the Persians, the looming threat and solace of most of the Hebrew Bible, the Aramean-speaking, formal garden organizing, architecturally, artistically, militarily dominant Persian Empire. In some decline, as the Roman Empire ascends to the west at this time of the story and pokes at its borders, and Asian empires to the east are expanding. But this is the storied, sophisticated, defining empire of the region and of our Bible. The Hebrew Bible is written in their time. The Persians are where our wise friends travel from, to the humble backwater, sort of strategic in its own way, on the eastern-ish most part of the Roman Empire, to Herod, a nobody among the great Caesars, but the king or governor on behalf of Caesar, where he was in Jerusalem, in his palace. And that palace and its environs are the great building project of Jesus' lifetime. The reason for the census and the taxation, maybe the employment of his carpenter father. The Magi and the Eastern mystics come to Herod in this reading and say, "We have come to behold him," assuming it will be his son. There is something of the ages in this new life, they come to tell him, assuming it's good news for him. The stars have told us so. I mean, it's a little bit like showing up in Venezuela after months of negotiations for access to oil, bombing some random small boats that deal in fish and marijuana, and just going in and taking the president and letting the vice president know that we would love to work with her. I mean, not exactly the same. But Herod must have had some similar feelings of WTF. You wealthy remnants of a failing world? Me, the corrupt leader of an emerging new order? You have come to threaten me? The Diocese of Venezuela is a part of the Anglican Communion. There are many Venezuelans here in New York and around the nation, a protected group of asylum seekers currently. Among the most recent migrants from the economic devastation of Venezuela, both from the US embargo and corruption and a collapsed economy. There is joy among many Venezuelans here that a corrupt leader after a rigged election has been removed. And there is distress among many Americans to see our government implement a coup. A coup not because of a political or military threat, but in pursuit of oil, and that's not actually complicated at all. It's on the front page of all the newspapers today. It is stated that way, disguised legally as concern about a very insignificant part of the drug trade to the United States. The United States' pursuit of the business of oil has defined our foreign policy since the 1950s. I believe I've actually said that before from this pulpit, maybe 20 years ago. So clearly that the Interpreter's Bible, so not the New Interpreter's Bible for you clergy folks from the 1990s, but the Interpreter's Bible, that first 12-volume epic edition that every clergy person of the era of the flourishing mainline church, growing beyond all imagination, had strategically placed behind their desk, like the volumes a lawyer would have had behind his massive 1950s desk. The Interpreter's Bible, in an essay on Isaiah, in engaging with the great issues of the time would be, for what would justice need to run down like rivers and righteousness like a rolling stream? Didn't identify race or war or poverty. Oil, the Bible scholar said, prophetically and accurately, oil. Now let me be very clear about the muddy lives we all live. I have a car. I am from Dallas, Texas. Many people in my family have had a shot at a life with dignity because of jobs in the Persian Gulf, the oil economy. Oil is like the blood in all of our veins in the 21st century, as well as the second part of the 20th. But maybe not for all of this century. It is a finite resource. So back to the Bible. The wise men saw the star and followed it, but I wonder, did they veer off a little because they knew where the king of that little kingdom lived? Did the star really stand over Herod's palace? Or was it a professional courtesy? Was it diplomacy that made them make their way to Jerusalem? What we have in our story is that Herod is very concerned by their visit. And after confirming that there is no heir of Herod in Herod's palace, no new baby, Herod recommends that his honored guests return this way after they have found this insurgent or baby or whatever they're calling him, and let him know that he too might pay homage to his heir. How delightful, he must have thought, to stand in a place of prophecy of one's own demise. So the wise ones go and follow the star to find the baby in an ordinary enough setup and a home, and they offer to Jesus the gifts that they have brought and have been warned in a dream that they should travel back to their home by another way. Home by another way is an apt four-word description of the journey of this time. Don't they all go home by another way? The bright star that led us to Bethlehem remains where it was, behind us, but where we need to find ourselves next is not lighted, is it? What will they do, these wise men, with the news that they have received? You can visit the place they say their tombs are today in Iran. They were fire worshippers, probably Zoroastrians. What did they understand of the ordering of the universe? What did it mean for this child to carry the imprimatur of the ancient Persians, the mighty sought-after power of Babylon and its great emperors? Who is this Jesus? Who is he for? Before we can finish our wondering, we must place ourselves in our church calendar. We are 2 days away from the Epiphany, which means we have walked the story of Christmas. The slaughter of the innocents on December 28th every year is the story in the next passage of the gospel that we read today. After Herod learns that the wise men have left without coming back to him, in a rage, it says, he has all of the children under the age of 2 in and around Bethlehem slaughtered. Joseph is already taking his Mary and Jesus to Egypt, which now, like then, is just beyond Gaza, a short journey to safety. From the first days of Jesus' life, it is marked by political violence and a threat that forces migration. From the beginning, God's blessing and song is for his mother, for Joseph, for shepherds, for him. God acts in places and people who are vulnerable to bombs and guns and the power of empire raging. God is to be found where people quake in terror, where the innocent are the cost of the whims and agendas of the powerful. God is to be found in Caracas and Gaza and the Congo. And let me be very clear, we do not simply idealize anything that is in opposition to our country. Life is far too complex for that. In this story, one place we get to be is among the seekers, like the Magi, making our way and following the light. We are called to be as sophisticated as they are. We see our friends celebrating and hoping like Iraqis and Libyans and Syrians before them. May it turn to something more just and livable for them. May it be so. May there be a new hope to which we may make our offerings of prayer and thanksgiving. But as Americans, we must also know that the rule of law, our Constitution, international norms, are the beautiful ideals of common community, and in this nation, our democracy. Justice comes not from a king in a palace like Herod, but from words on a page like your Bible, except that they are the Constitution and the law, aspiring to a dignity inherent in our being, in all beings, that is the work of the law to protect, our work to enshrine in law. We must stand vigilant for the law, our bright, shining star that stands high above each and every one of us and all of humanity and points down to you, to people like you, the Christ in you. There is no turning away to a starless night for a journey elsewhere anymore. The light shines above us all, in us all, and the light shall not be overcome, we are told. So as you watch those Magi ride off into the night, friends, we can choose to stay with Jesus and his small family that are making their way to Egypt in terror. May we remember all whose lives have been lost in acts of war, every exquisite life snuffed for a modern-day Herod's political agenda. May we remember those who flee to safety, particularly to our nation, like the Holy Family, one dream at a time, trying to survive for one more day. May we find comfort in the truth, never easy answers, but the truths before us as we face these new days, as we remain marked by the pursuit of oil as a nation. Let us not be cowed by the violence of the powerful. May we find courage in the pursuit of wisdom and justice, following the life of Jesus and his family and all families like his. On January 1, a new mayor was sworn in our great city. It feels like so many days ago today. The ceremony around the inauguration was filled with New York City hope. A Quran was used from the collection of Arturo Schomburg. Bread and roses was sung for the workers that make this city great. The public advocate, Jumaane Williams, was brought to tears, remembering his own self as a child of this city, the son of a Grenadian immigrant mother, wondering if he was worth her effort. And this poem was read by Cornelius Eady, called Proof. You have to imagine it. Who said you were too dark, too large, too queer, too loud? Who said you were too poor, too strange, too fat? You have to imagine it. Who said you must keep quiet? Who heard your story, then rolled their eyes? Who tried to change your name to invisible? You've got to imagine. Who heard your name and refused to pronounce it? Who checked their watch and said, not now? James Baldwin wrote, the place in which I'll fit will not exist until I make it. New York, city of invention, roiling town, refresher and renewer. New York, city of the real, where the canyons whisper in 100 tongues. New York, where your lucky self waits for your arrival, where there is always soil for your root. This is our time, the taste of us, the spice of us, the hollers and the rhythms and the beats of us, and the echo of our ancestors who made certain we know who we are. City of insistence, city of resistance. You have to imagine an army that wins without firing a bullet, a joy that wears down the rock of no. Up from insults, up from blocked doors, up from trick bags, up from fear, up from shame, up from the way it was done before. You have to imagine that space they said wasn't yours, the time they said you'd never own, the invisible city lit on its way. This moment is our proof.